I dropped out of university after a year and a half. I told my coworker, I just feel like I'm like so stagnant right now. I'm traveling and I'm doing what I love, but I'm not able to make an income, feeling so stressed and like, crying all the time. I remember Googling, what is an agency? There's this notion that you have to have a 9 to 5 job at a certain age. Game of comparison. Am I not successful because I haven't achieved that? I don't want to be stuck in that. Maybe this is my chance to finally listen to that voice that I've been hearing inside of me. I have this one life and I'm going to live it on my own terms.
Remember being 20 and dreaming of a career that would take you places? Maybe you didn't know the job title, but you played certain details, all the fun parts, over and over in your mind. The things you would do, the people that you would meet, the place that you would get to go to work every day. For many of us, that dream felt more real than real life. But then, one adult day, you were offered a smart choice, a safe choice, one that gave you a cubicle instead of a canvas, or an office instead of an ocean. McKenna Schroter, whom you'll meet in a moment, remembers that day well. She knew then that the smart choice was not smart, not for her. So she kept going in the other direction. You know the one that people warn you off of, the one that irresponsible people take that risks going nowhere, the one where you're told that you might amount to nothing if you stay on it. Yeah, she followed that road. And she was just hoping that her heart was right and it would lead her to somewhere that mattered. And spoiler, it did. But the path there was not pretty. Picture it. Here she is, an ocean away from home, in the middle of lockdown. She's broke, panicked, Googling 100 jobs a day when she almost gives up. She almost takes that safe path, the one she left because she knows it doesn't lead to anywhere she wants to go. But what happened next? Now that's the part you need to hear from her. Because today, at 28, McKenna runs her own marketing agency for women-owned wine brands from her laptop anywhere in the world. No college degree, no formal training, no impressive titles. Just clarity, courage, and the willingness to learn. Oh, and to do it messy. I hope you see in this story what I see. A reminder of the version of you who dreamt without disclaimers. Yes, the years may have passed and our titles may have gotten fancier, but it's not too late to start listening to the younger you, the one who knew the feeling her career was meant to give her. Because you know what? She might have something to say. I hope you enjoy the interview. Hi, I'm Jerry, and I help accomplished executives build well-paying, high-functioning B2B consulting businesses. Welcome to Sequel Opportunities, where we help you create the director's cut of your life. Good morning, McKenna. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Yes, good morning as well.
Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to jump right in. Tell us what you do.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have a marketing and admin agency, and specifically, we support wine brands. And even more specifically, we love to support women-owned wine brands. So I currently have a team. I have three and other amazing women who are on my team. And yeah, we support wine brands with a various different range of tasks, all really intended to save them from burnout and allow them to free up their time so that they can then focus on what they're really passionate about in their own business.
How long have you had this agency?
So I started my agency during COVID. So I believe it was August 2020 when we all couldn't get a job and people were getting laid off. Work was hard to find. We were all confused and didn't know what was going on next. So that's kind of the era that I started in, which was honestly such a blessing because I was able to then begin this new journey and create that income for myself. Yeah. So during that era.
So COVID was what? Gosh, it's been 5 years now.
Yeah.
If you don't
Mhm.
mind telling our audience. So how old were you? Because by some people's standards, it's a bit young to have started an
Yes.
agency.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So 5 years ago, like you said, so I was 22. So yeah, I started my business when I was 22, but it's funny, like looking back on that, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna start this big business and start like take over the world with my business. It wasn't like that. It was more of the sense of like, I want to do something different in my life. I have this unique opportunity, this unique position where I'm not earning any income because of COVID and the what it brought on. So let's try this out. Let's move into this virtual assisting and just start making some money, kind of like starting as a side hustle, I guess. That's kind of how I initially imagined it.
I love how you just framed that. You said, I have this great opportunity where I'm not earning any income because of
Hmm.
COVID, which is okay, step number one, to be able to say, not, oh my gosh, this is a problem, but rather, okay, what am I going to do now? This is the perfect time to do something. I can feel it. What am I going to do? So you work with wineries and female winery owners. How is it that you narrowed in on that? Do you have a background in wine? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I actually have no prior background in wine at all. I didn't even finish university. I dropped out of university after a year and a half. I've never had a 9 to 5 job in my life. I didn't, yeah, nothing to do with the wine industry. However, like growing up, as soon as I turned 18 in Canada, my mom and grandma, they were wine drinkers and they had introduced me to wine. Very like basic, simple wines, nothing too crazy, just a simple glass of Pinot Grigio or like a Moscato. And they had drinking that. And I was always very intrigued by the idea of wine. And I very
Mhm.
much enjoyed the connection when we would open a bottle at a family dinner and enjoy it together and have these really amazing conversations or just a glass as well. So that kind of intrigued me to learn a bit more about wine. And during COVID, I had seen this woman talking about becoming a virtual assistant online, and you could take this course with her and learn how to basically work online, work remotely, make money from your own skills. And in this course, she spoke about picking a niche. And so, yeah, it was funny. I was debating between like, I think the music industry, because I really enjoy music. It was kind of like my passions, right? Like I'm going, whatever I'm passionate about, I'm going to follow that passion. So wine was one of them and the music. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into wine. Let's give it a shot. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, that's totally okay. At least I gave it a try. So that's when I decided to choose wine. And then the woman thing just initially fell into place because the wine industry is typically a male-dominated industry. And I just feel like there's so much potential for the women in the industry to really rise up and share their voices more.
I love this. This is what I tell my clients all the time. I want to highlight a few things that you said, which are that you didn't have any background in the niche that you chose,
Mhm.
but you had a passion for it
Yeah.
and you loved it. And they narrowed it down to two things you had a huge passion for. And
Yeah.
then further narrowed it down, saying, hey, I have a passion for helping other women. I've
Mhm.
noticed that there's a need there as well, and saying, I don't need to have had a background, a 30-year background in wine or working with women or working with female wine owners. I can just say that this is a niche that I'm going to choose. And then, secondly, what I love is that you were talking about taking a virtual assistant course. Now, I want to get into this because I know
Mhm.
your story, but I'm so excited for everybody else to hear it. You didn't have a marketing background. You were coming in as a virtual assistant. At this point, did you have any idea that you wanted to get into marketing? What was that entry point for you?
No, I had really no idea. I was just basically, as I had mentioned, right out of high school, I went into university because that's what you're supposed to do. So I did that. And deep down throughout my year and a half in university, I never really felt fulfilled in what I was doing. However, I really loved the aspect of connection and meeting people in university and then taking Spanish class. So, that connection and culture were always really a piece. And, during my time in university, I was working various hospitality roles. So I was a server, and as you know, in North America, when you do serving, it is very much almost like a sales marketing type role because the higher your bill is, the higher your tip is going to be. So it's really about like selling the product, selling that wine, selling the higher glass of wine or like the more expensive glass of wine to somebody so you could get your bill higher. So from that, and I also did a bit of network marketing within there too. So that was really about putting myself out there, selling these products to other people. So from that, that's when I started to learn like, oh, okay, this is how you market, this is how you share yourself, how you share a product online and when you're speaking to people. So it was just through that real world experience that I had picked up these skills that then when I started being a virtual assistant, one of the things was taught was like just share what you already know. Like those are your skills, like what you already know. And I wasn't a professional marketer by any means at all, but it was more of like I learned by doing. So when I got that first client, I was able to learn by doing that and just watching YouTube videos, reaching out to people who are already where I wanted to be and like who are already established themselves and asking, how did you get into marketing? What are the tips that you have for me? Like just really having that growth and education mindset was really helpful in terms of choosing marketing.
I tell my clients this all the time. This isn't about having something on your resume where you have a title saying that you did
Yeah.
that thing. Share what you already know. If it's how to
Yes.
make the perfect chocolate chip cookie, or if it's how to get visibility on Instagram, or whether it is how to stay compliant cheaper.
Mhm.
Whatever it is that you know, whether or not it's included in your job title or in your job description. So take me back to that moment where you are out of university and you are thinking about becoming a virtual assistant. Why
Mhm.
virtual assistant? Why not just staying in university? What are you thinking when you make this decision?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I said, I felt not fulfilled while I was in university at all. Like I just felt like I would sit in class and be like totally distracted, thinking about traveling, thinking about meeting people, thinking about what else is out there. And I always had this thought too, like if I took this university route, did like 4 years of university and then got into a job and I really didn't like the job, like what then? I just felt like it was a path that just wasn't going to lead me where I wanted to go. So I dropped out of university after that year and a half and I moved to Australia by myself at 19. And from there, that's when I really like traveling just opens up a new world for you and like allows you to really grow more. And that's what it allowed me to do at that age. And from there, I was able to meet people, learn what they're doing, just get these like real world experiences. And then when I was in Australia as well, I was working at the front desk of a gym. So I traveled a bit and then I started working where I did a lot of sales and learned some marketing there doing this front desk role. But I still just remember sitting there at the desk. Like I would get in at like 4 a.m. in the morning because the class would be at 5 a.m., just like so tired and just sitting there and being like, I just feel like, and I told my coworker this too, I was like, I just feel like I'm like so stagnant right now. It was a great job and it was good. I got paid, obviously, same paycheck every single week, same hours worked. But I just felt like if you're looking at like a graph, like I was just like that stagnant line and I wasn't like feeling that fulfillment that I really like felt like I wanted to feel fulfilled and excited for what I was doing. So I was just not progressing, not going up. And I was like, I want to go up. I want to be on a progressive slope up in my life and continue to feel this excitement with whatever I do. So that's when I kind of realized I was like, there's something more out there for me. I don't want to sit at this desk every single day and watch the clock and the hours go by and just like wish it was already the end of the day. So that's when I moved back to Canada and again worked hospitality for another 2 years, traveled as much as I could to gain these experiences. And then fast forward to COVID, that's when I saw that woman talking and it was just the way that she spoke about it too. It was just like we were talking about before, it's like the things that you're passionate about, like these things can be shared with the world. Like you don't need to have this university degree, you don't need to have this crazy resume to be able to apply what you already know into this digital and remote work.
Take me back to those moments when you're talking about being in that job and saying, I felt stagnant. And then when you were at university and you feel like, okay, I'm not even paying attention. How did that feel? What did
Mhm.
that feel like for you? Were there any cues around you that you said, okay, something needs to change?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just like, yeah, like I said, like that really stagnant feeling and like, oh, like just like dreading waking up every morning, going to the
Uh,
job and like the commute there. And I think too, like, I think I would just, it was crazy with like growing up, you would hear people like adults and stuff, like when you're younger, like talking about like 9, 10 or something, and you hear adults be like, well, I've been in a job for like 50 years, 60 years. I just remember hearing that too when I was that age and being like, that's crazy. You work one job for that long. Like I always just thought it was so, I mean, unless you're very passionate about it, like yes, I get it. However, like a lot of the times these adults that would say this, like they just were like, oh yeah, like I stuck to it. It was good pay, it was comfortable. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be like comfortable like that. Like I want to be stretched and I want to be expanded and I want to be wake up every morning being like, I love what I do, like screaming it and just like feel this like excitement and passion about what I'm doing. And we only have this one life, as cliche as that sounds. So it's like, I always felt I was like, it's this one life, this one shot. I'm really going to go for it. And I don't want to feel these feelings of stagnant, no growth, not following like this voice inside of me that is telling me there's more out there. There's something else for you. You can feel fulfilled in another path.
I talk about that a lot with the women that I work with. Pay attention to the cues in your life. You were
Yeah.
talking about when you would wake up dreading saying, I don't want to go into work. I mean, I'll do it. Obviously, you're a conscientious person. We do it and we show up. And if
Yeah.
you're watching this, you're probably somebody who shows up really well and
Hmm.
does your job and does it well. But in your heart, you're hearing something, you're feeling something that says, I'm not happy here. The bottom line is that I'm not happy here. And
Yeah.
what I love with what you said is you contrasted that and said, I want to wake up feeling like I can't wait to get to work. This is the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
So when you look at the difference between those two things, I think that that's a really good indicator of
Hmm.
the fact that maybe a change needs to take place. If you are looking for fulfillment, this is a good thing to contrast. This is where I am. This is where I want to be. Okay. I need to
Yeah.
probably do something to bridge that gap. So
Yes,
tell
exactly.
me, when you go ahead and you start looking at this virtual assistant thing, you've been bouncing around. You're from Canada, you go to Australia, you're doing all different things. You're working as a server, you're working in the front desk in a gym. What did the people in your life say? Was anybody saying, what? That's crazy. What are you doing? Tell me how the people around you responded.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I got a lot of, I think a lot of my family too were just like, when are you going to make a decision with what you're doing? Like, are you looking? And I just remember like being in my bedroom, just like researching things. I'm like, okay, what can I do? What's going to tie in my passions? And at that time, it was like traveling. So I was like, what can I do in travel? That is like I could do a job that is, and I applied to be a tour guide. So I once was going to be a tour guide. However, I didn't follow through with that, but I was just kept researching things, and my family was just like, you're getting older, even though I was only like 20 or something. They're like, you're getting older, like maybe you should, figure out what you want to do. And I think there's always this, of course, like especially with the North American culture, there's this like notion that you have to get married at a certain age, buy a house at a certain age, have a 9 to 5 job at a certain age. But I just never felt like I really wanted to follow that either. Again, I was just like, what's the point? Like, I have this one life and I'm going to really live it how I want to live it and on my own terms. And yeah, so a lot of times, and I remember too, when I took this virtual assistant course, that moment too, my mom was like, are you sure it's not a scam? Like, you're going to spend all this money learning from another woman online. Like, how do you know she's real? And I like remember sending my mom her like profile and I was like, she's real, she's legit. And then she was like, if you're passionate about it and this is really what you want to do, then go for it. Like, really give it your all. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, anything that I do, I really put 100% to. And that's exactly what I did as a virtual assistant. So, yeah, I definitely got those doubts. And my friends always, too, like, they were, yeah, like in university getting their masters and all of these things. And there was a part of me that felt like, oh, maybe I should be doing this. But that stronger voice inside of me that was like, no, you're not made for that. Like that's not going to fulfill you. That's not going to excite you was a lot stronger. And I decided to listen to that voice over the one that told me I should be put in a box and follow XYZ step to feel successful and feel fulfilled.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love this idea that you knew that there were people who were doing the things that you were supposed to do. You have your family saying, what are you doing? You're not getting any younger. Can you please find something? I'm sure it's in a very loving way. Listen, we love you. We just
Yes.
want to make sure
Mhm.
that you don't fall off the edge of the earth. I mean, because that's their fear that
Yeah.
because they can't figure out how you're going to do it, they think that there's no other choice.
Mhm.
Number one. And then number two, you're watching your friends progress down this lane that you were put on that you decided to get out of. This
Yeah.
lane that everybody's put on. There's some lane that everybody is supposed to be on, wherever it is that you grow up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And So you're now comparing yourself in your head, I imagine, where you're
Definitely.
looking at your friends who are the same age and they're fast tracking some of them, going
Hmm.
down this path and getting those things, those markers on that path that
Yeah.
you don't really want to be on. But on the other hand, you don't have a path that you want to be on yet because you haven't found it.
Hmm.
Tell me about those moments. Tell me about that process you went through while this was happening.
Yeah, it felt definitely difficult and isolating, almost like I was like, oh, I want to talk to this person about, traveling the world and following this, but however, they're in like a completely different stage of life. So it felt like, yeah, it just kind of felt isolating and nobody was really doing that. Like, or the people that weren't following that path, they were just stuck in that one job. Like it was, if it was like for example, when I worked in the service industry and hospitality, like they were just working that job forever, hoping that they could make as much money. And then I was like, oh, I just don't want to follow that route either and be stuck in that. So yeah, it felt very isolating and just like it did feel like I was almost comparing myself though at times as well. Like it was this game of comparison where I was like, oh, this person who's 22, they're completed their degree, they're on to their masters, they're doing an internship here. And I was like, should I be comparing myself to that success? Like, is that like, am I not successful because like I haven't achieved that in my life? Like that's how it felt very belittling as well. But that was just, it was myself, it was my internal self being like, this is, you see this happening to other people. How come it's not happening to you? And it did feel like silly at times too. Like there was times where I doubted myself and I was like, maybe I should just go back to school. Like maybe I like yeah, take this course in university and maybe I'll like this more. Like it was always like these thoughts of like pulling myself back into like where I knew I wasn't unhappy, but because it felt safe. Like it felt like, oh, you know what? If I go back to university, I'm going to get this amazing job after it and I'll be able to make this money compared to the other side of me that was like, there's something more. Do follow what excites you, follow that passionate side. And I'm really glad I did lean into that side versus like going back into that safety net in that box and staying in my small town forever and working a job that was very unfulfilling.
Was there a crucial moment where you almost went back to school? What you're talking about sounds so normal. And I bet everybody
Hmm.
listening and watching has had those moments where we're comparing ourselves. I know that I've had a lifetime of doing this, of comparing
Hmm.
myself and saying, wait, that person's doing this and this person's doing that. And if I had taken that route, I would have been on this. I love also what you talked about is the safety. I talk about this all the time. Are you going to choose what's safe? Look, there's nothing wrong with safety. Or are you going to choose the thing that feels less safe that may take you to the thing that you really want to do? Obviously,
Hmm.
the safety is really an illusion because
Hmm.
what is it? So, anyway, before I go off on that tangent, can you tell me about that? How you reconciled that? And was there one moment that you almost went the other way?
Yeah, yeah, there was actually. So yeah, after I had gotten back from Australia, I was doing all these traveling, working as a server. I think it was like year two of being back after Australia. And I remember just I felt these pressures again, like this internal, seeing what my friends were doing, listening to what family members were saying. You have to go to university and get a degree, or else you might not amount to anything. And so I actually felt that so much and really leaned into it. I applied to go back to school. I paid $700 for an application to go back to university. And I remember I submitted that payment and then I was like, I just felt this like almost nauseous feeling. Like I was like, oh, like I'm gonna be sick. Like I just spent this money and I'm gonna actually go back to university. And then I was just like thinking of it and I got so caught up in like watching what all my friends were doing and going to university and getting these degrees and stuff that like I really like leaned into that and thought that's probably the path for me because everybody else is doing it. So literally, like I think within a couple hours after I paid that amount, I was like, I don't actually want to do this. What am I doing? So it's non-refundable. So unfortunately, I didn't make that back. However, it was a really good lesson because it was just like I needed to listen. I just needed to get quiet and really like listen to myself and that inner voice and just like feel it. Like does this feel right in my body to like move forward into going back to university? And it absolutely didn't. Like I felt sick. I just like knew like there was these things being like, this isn't what you want to do. So from there, and I went to Europe. I traveled Europe by myself for like 2 months. And that fulfilled me so much more. And I was like, yes, this is what it is. this is like what lights me up and this is what lightens that fire inside of me. And then from there, that's when then during COVID, I fell into virtual assisting. So it's really crazy because that kind of that moment there was kind of like that turn point of like, okay, this is the second time I tried to apply to go back to university, and no, it's not gonna happen. It's not in my future.
I love it. That moment where you say, okay, I'm doing this. I don't care. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
At least I would be doing something and it would lead to
Hmm.
something that I can see happening. So, but you stayed awake inside to say, wait a minute, how does this
Yeah.
feel now? I imagine $700 at that time in your life. You were what, 20 years old?
Yeah, 2022 at that point. Yeah.
22, you're paying 700 bucks.
Hmm.
At that time, it's probably like this might as well be 700,000. This is a lot of money to do something that I don't think I want to do.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
after that, you make the decision. How soon after you have this feeling of regret, of sickness, do you say, that's it, I'm going to Europe? Did you have a job at that time that you had to quit?
Yeah, so that's when I was still working as a server, and yeah, I was like like after paid that money, and then I decided, and I think yeah, literally like hours after, I was just like kept thinking about it, and I was like, this isn't right, I don't want to do this. And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna work as much as I can in the server job, make as much money as I can to then, when I decided no, like that's not for me, I want to go traveling. That's what I feel passionate about. So I think I worked as hard as I could for the next month or so, month and a half maybe. And then I put in my resignation for my job. And yeah, and then I went traveling, and yeah,
So what
no
did your
worries.
friends and family say at this point? Your parents maybe might be ecstatic
Mhm.
that you said, yes, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go back to university. And they're probably like, great. And then you go and you do it and you pay the $700. And then you say, guess what? No, I'm not. What was the response at that point?
I think like by that point they were just like, I think I had kind of gone back and forth a few times prior to that, but then they were like, "Oh, McKenna, like, are you sure? Like, is this like, do you actually like, does this feel right? Like, you're not gonna go back to university again. Like, what are you gonna do?" Like, they just like felt like so worried about my future, of course, in all in love. But they just felt so worried. They're like, "What are you gonna do for a living? Like, you can't just work as a server all your life." And I was just kept saying, "I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. Like, I have this trust in myself. Like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what this is going to lead into. But you have to trust me because I'm not going to be passionate about doing university again."
So you go to Europe and is it what happens during that time? I mean, obviously we have COVID, but what happens with you internally that you start becoming a virtual assistant? How did you make that shift?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I traveled around for yeah, like a month, 2 months. And I felt like I was obviously spending a lot of money. And I was like, okay, I know like I need money to do what I want to do in traveling and whatnot. So yeah, that was about for a month and a half. And then, so that was actually prior to, so during that travel, I actually met my boyfriend abroad, which was quite cool. He's from England. So I met him during that travel. And then that following year, we continued talking and then we started dating, came over to Canada for our first date, actually, which was quite nice. And then that year, again, so that was so sorry. So the traveling was like 2019 that I did that. And then it was that March 2020 that COVID hit, of course. So he actually had asked me in that year after we started dating to move over to England with him. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like maybe I should follow this. Again, I don't know where this is gonna lead. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna take the chance on it. So I flew over to England, and then that's when COVID hit, literally like 2 weeks after I had come over to England. And then we were stuck in lockdown together in England. And then it was that summer we actually went to Spain. We moved to Spain. He plays hockey, field hockey, so he was playing field hockey over there, and I moved over there, and that's when it hit me that I was like, okay, I can't keep traveling around forever and with not a lot of money. Like I need to make money. I need to follow a passion. And it was August 2020 that's when I was weighing out my options of like, okay, what can I do? And I remember feeling so stressed and like crying all the time and like being like, okay, I'm like here, I'm like traveling and I'm doing what I love, but I'm not able to make an income and I feel this financial stress all the time. And I want to do something like maybe this is my chance to finally build something and like listen to that voice that I've been hearing inside of me. So that's when I was weighing out my options and searching online. And I was actually deciding between teaching English online because again, I really love helping people and the connection with people. So like teaching English to children in I believe like Asian countries, and then also virtual assistant was the other option. And so I was weighing out the options and I was like, oh, what am I going to choose? And I just like I felt this calling for virtual assistant and helping people with what I had already knew and my previous experience from other roles. So that's when I was like, you know what, sign up for this course, let's do it. And yeah, signed up for that course for virtual assistant.
I get it. Many of us have had those moments where you said you're crying. Why can't I figure this out? Why is this so
Hmm.
hard? All I
Hmm.
want to do is to be able to do the things that I love. I should be able to do this, which is
Hmm.
actually a really beautiful place to be in, where you know that you have this feeling that you want and you value that enough for it to hurt that you're not doing it. And to say, why
Yeah.
can't I do this? I don't get it. So, in these
Hmm.
moments, was there ever a time that you were thinking, oh, I should have gone to university? I paid that $700 and I took off to Europe. Were there ever those moments that you said, that safe path now, maybe I should get back on it?
Yeah. Yeah, there was many of those moments. I was like, maybe I just, yeah, fly back to Canada and take university. I was looking at university courses online even, and I was just like, again, it was just like I was very frustrated and I didn't know like what to do and like how I was crying and just like frustrated. And there was like those, yeah, those notions that I was like, maybe you should go back. Maybe you should go back to that safety net there. However, I was just still no. And I was actually even in Spain trying to apply for jobs. I didn't have a visa, so obviously I was going to get rejected. But I mean, I was still doing that because it was like maybe this is safe. Like maybe I go for this job, or maybe they'll hire me here, or maybe I can do nannying or something like that. Like nothing I was passionate about at all. But I was like, you know what, it's the safe bet. It's a safe bet to just like go into these versus like taking a risk and starting something that I don't know where it's gonna lead.
About how much time is going by between the time that you say, that's it, I'm so uncomfortable, and you stay in this discomfort. About how much time did you spend in that difficult, painful limbo?
Yeah, honestly, it was like a couple weeks, I would say, that I just like I felt this just like ongoing like yeah, discomfort, this like what do I do? Do I go back? And it was just like it was such a stressful situation and I felt like I was so narrowed in on it and focusing on it that it was just like it just got to a point where I was like no, we kind of just get quiet and listen to what you really want to do and follow that because yeah, it was so much noise. That's what it was like in my head. It was just so much noise of this discomfort for about, yeah, maybe like 2, 3 weeks. And I was like, this is not it. I'm not going to listen to this noise anymore.
It's so important what you're talking about to realize for anybody who may be going through this right now, that call to safety. It's not like you said, okay, I applied to university, paid my $700, and I immediately realized that this isn't what I want to do. And then I got on this lane
Hmm.
and then it was smooth sailing. No,
Hmm.
that call to, I don't want to go there, but I have the illusion. It looks really safe from where I'm standing. It kept coming on your radar
Hmm.
as an option because that's what happens when we're scared is
Yeah,
what can I do to get out of this? Okay, that thing looks safe from where I'm standing.
like this.
Maybe I should run back to that. And that's something that doesn't necessarily end right away. It
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily end until you find the thing that you're supposed to be doing. So while you're sitting in that limbo, it could keep calling to you. And
Yeah.
it seems like what you did was to say, okay, wait a second. I need to be quiet because I know there's an answer inside. Did you learn that from your parents? Did you read that in a book? Or were you just born like that, that you knew to get quiet and look inward?
No, yeah, I definitely, I don't think I was born with it, but I mean, that would be sweet if I was. But no, I feel like I really learned it during my time. So in university, I also did a bit of network marketing, as I'd said. And During that time, a lot of these leaders in the network marketing world, like they would do these amazing inspirational talks. And I remember going to a conference and there was some woman talking about like how you have this like little flame, this little flicker of flame inside of you when you're born. And it's always kind of like your passion. And the more you get older, the more you need to like feed that fire with what you're passionate about and what fulfills you to really like enlarge and just be the passionate person and live this like fulfilling life. And I remember thinking, and she was just saying, the more that you follow the path that you're not passionate about, the more your light inside of you and your flame is just going to diminish and get smaller and smaller until some people don't even realize they have it anymore. So I was always like, I remember hearing that and I was like, oh wow, like that's so cool. Like I just got chills from it. Like I was like, there's like this flame inside me of like what I'm passionate about. And like I have the opportunity to feed it and let that light grow and let it like expand out into like this path that I want to follow. So I think it was from that. And she did say like get really quiet and just listen, like stop the voices, like exclude anything out, like these outside pressures that you have from friends, family, what you see on social media, and just really get quiet with yourself and tune in and listen to like what it is that is going to fulfill you and allow you to grow this light. So I feel like I picked it up from there. And then that just like always stuck with me. So I was like, I'm gonna practice this. I'm gonna follow this a little bit more.
I love that. You heard one voice and it spoke to you.
Hmm.
That's really so fortunate that you found that. And I love that you listened to it. This is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You said, okay, this is for me. She's speaking to me.
Mhm.
So now you said, okay, I'm doing this virtual course. Again, you're investing. You've got to pay to learn how to do this. Now, after the $700, are you thinking, oh no, I can't do this again? Or are you saying, no, I know this is it? Tell me what was going on there. How did that feel? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I was very nervous because yeah, like when I had sent in the money for that university application, I was like, oh gosh, is this going to be the same thing again? Like, am I going to submit this money and never see it again or never see a return on it? But I was just like thinking, I was like, you know what? Like, this is it, McKenna. Like, you're going to take this course and you're going to listen to everything she's saying. You're going to write notes down. You're going to take action. You're going to do it. Like, I'm going to commit to this 100%. Like, I just had to tell myself that like this is it, like we're going in, we're going to commit to this. So I remember being scared though, like for sure, because at the time too it was a lot of money for me to put something in without knowing what the outcome was going to be, like what was my ROI on this. Maybe it will flop and maybe I won't be successful in it. But it was like the chance that I was willing to take. And I remember like shaking, going to like put in my credit card information and being like, oh my goodness, is this person going to run away with my money? Like, is this real? And then I placed that money in, but it was a different feeling from when I had put submitted that money for the university application. It was more of like, oh my gosh, like it was this is like wave of like relief almost. Like I was like, oh, I feel like this is just like a good path to move forward into. I don't know what I can't predict the future, of course, and I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm taking that first step into something that could be this amazing new thing for me, following my passions and like building something of my own. So it was like definitely a different feeling. It was that wave of relief versus that feeling being like, what did I just do?
Why is it that you took a course? Would
Mm.
you normally be able to just go on YouTube or something to figure out how to do this? Why is it that you decided to take a course?
Yeah, yeah. I decided to because it was honestly the faster route. But honestly, I 100% believe in like the concept. There's a concept called Who, Not How. It's actually a book by I think, Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, I believe. And it's basically this concept and this core idea of like, instead of asking, how can I get this done? Ask like, who can help me get this done? So I've always really believed in that instead of like trying to get stuck in spending all my time spinning my wheels and like trying to search for all of these million YouTube videos on how to get started, I can then reach out to somebody and take this course with them or find this person, take this course, somebody who's already been there, somebody who's already done this to then follow in their footsteps and basically speed up this process because I was running low on money and I couldn't continue doing what I was doing. And I was like, I see this as an investment in myself and an investment in my future. And if this person has done this already and is where I want to be, then it's a no-brainer to then follow within their footsteps and learn the ropes that they've learned and like bypass all of the mistakes as well. Like I'm sure they've made many mistakes in their time, but by following them, I'm not going to make those same mistakes.
I say this all the time. You're not paying for the information itself because there's so much information out there. You're paying for someone who has put it together and knows that it knows what works in the
Yeah.
fastest way. I love that you said that you could go out there and you could make your mistakes and spin your wheels and learn by trial and error. But do you really want to search through a million YouTube videos or
Mhm.
online to find out? So, how long did it take you to do this course?
Yeah, so the course was, I believe, 3 months long. And within that 3 months, I actually became fully booked out. So as I was honestly so shocked and so excited, of course. Obviously, I put in a lot of hard work. And it's not to say too, I didn't have those moments of doubt like we had spoken about before. I definitely had those moments where I was like, gosh, is this the right thing? I remember talking to like a very first potential client and literally like shaking. I was like, had these thoughts like, who do I think I am? Like these thoughts like, can I do this? Like, what do you mean, McKenna? Like you're gonna sell your services to somebody? You don't have a degree. Like you never worked in corporate. Like who are you to think that? And I just was like, you know what? Like let's keep going. Like let's just one step at a time. I'm gonna do this call and like I was scared, but fear is just excitement without the breath. So I was just like, breathe through this thing. You got this on the call, shaking. But I ended up signing that first client. And it was just these little steps that kept building up my confidence throughout that first 3 months.
I love the way that you described this. And absolutely, the shaking, oh my God, and the doubt that comes in.
Mm,
The great lesson here is that's normal. That
hmm.
is the way that many people are wired. You're doing something new, but the way you got through that was just to say, okay, that's cool. Let's
Hmm.
keep doing this. In other
Yeah.
words, yeah, I'm scared and I have doubts, but I'm not going to let them stop me. I'm just going to keep going
Yeah.
forward the best I can. When you talked to that first person, was it the first person that you talked to when they became a client?
Yeah, it was the very first person that I talked to, and then that became a client, which was honestly so exciting. And just like the feeling of when she sent over an email after and I sent her through the contract to sign, I was like, oh my goodness, like just like this feeling of like, oh, just so amazing. Like, okay, I'm on the right path. Like I don't know where this is going to lead, but like one client is one client, and the opportunity to get to support this client it was just like, oh, it was just so amazing. It was just like such a celebration.
So at that point, what services are you offering?
Yeah, so a lot of the services I offered in the beginning were more so the virtual assistant based. So definitely like a lot of like helping with calendar management, email management, a little bit of marketing, I would say, a little bit of like light social media, but nothing to like the extent of like full marketing support. So just kind of the things that I knew how to do, like booking travel, for example, researching topics to talk about on like a webinar, something like that. Very, very light work, but it was all just like stuff that I was like felt confident in and I had done it in previous tasks or previous
Okay.
experience. Mhm.
So in your previous jobs and in your
Yeah.
life, you've said, I know how to book travel. I've done it for myself. I do it for
Yeah,
my
exactly.
family. I've done it. Maybe you've done something at work, but did you look
Hmm.
at your experience in life like, oh, I always help my friends with this and I help my family with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I looked at what I did in my life before that and I was like, oh yeah, I've helped my parents book a trip before. Easy, I can apply that. Like it was just these smaller skills. And then, this client as well at the time gave me more and more on social media. So again, that's where I really learned by doing in terms of the marketing as well. So she saw it and she was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance. I know you're beginning stage as well. So like here I would like you to take on more responsibility with this. And that's when from there I was like got more and more involved. And again, it was very much that process of like learn by doing and like if there was anything I couldn't figure out, of course we have Google. Like, of course I'm going to figure it out, watch a YouTube video, learn this exact skill, how to figure it out. And from there I was able to build up the services that I was offering.
So important, McKenna. I love that you said you realize there are going to be things that I'm not going to know how to do, but there is this
Mm.
thing called Google. There are ways to figure this out and to
Hmm.
have confidence in yourself that you are somebody who can figure it out. I say this all the time to the women that I work with. There's one layer of, yes, I have experience in this and I know how to do this, but a lot of the reason that you are being hired is because the person who's hiring you knows that you're going to be able to figure it out. You know enough
Hmm.
about enough things that if something else comes up, you will be able to take what you know and then figure out the rest. And
Hmm.
that in itself is a skill, especially when you narrow it down
Yes.
into a niche that you're in. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're doing social media for this client. It's going well. When does it become a focus of what you're doing? Is it that now you're still concentrating on virtual assistant work and you say, okay, by the way, or are you putting it front and center? What's the evolution with working with digital marketing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, it was definitely her just giving me these social media tasks and taking those on more. And then it was actually the second client that I signed that was like came to me as well and was like, "Hey, we need support with." I remember this exact example too. They're like, "Oh, we're working with Shopify. Like, do you know how to do Shopify?" And I was like, "No." But I'm gonna learn. So literally that weekend, they weren't even my client yet. I just remember searching like how to use Shopify, like set up my own store. Like, you know what, I'm gonna learn this. Like I'm going to take it upon myself and learn these skills and I might not know everything about it, you know, and it's just about being very clarity is kindness. And I just told them I'm not an expert in this. However, I'm going to learn and going to take on this initiative. And from there too, they came on wanting more of a marketing support. And I was just like, okay, McKenna, it's time to level up your marketing skills and really like learn the ropes of this. So it was through them and through those tasks that I just began to transition more into marketing. And they taught me a lot too. And of course, I reached out to my network and was like, hey, like, have you ever done email marketing before? Like, could you share me any courses that you've taken maybe on it, any YouTube videos, any somebody on Instagram I should follow that's really good at email marketing so I can learn this to myself? And from that experience, like I realized like how much I really loved marketing. And I remember like when I sold gym memberships and sold the higher bottle of wine too, I was like, oh, like this is very much the same as what I was doing. We're selling the idea or the notion of this product to these people and I'm marketing it to them to basically make a sale. And I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of like mirroring in this. I can do this, I can take this on. And I just became more and more passionate about marketing because of how important it is for a business. So that, yeah, that's when I was like, you know what, marketing is going to kind of be like our bread and butter of what I serve or what I, as a virtual assistant, only at this point.
Take me into that moment. You've gone from literally despondent to saying, should I even do this virtual course? It's a lot of money. To then being in the course and starting to get clients while you're in it. Tell me how you're feeling at that point.
Yeah, it honestly it felt so amazing to like just like have it's almost like having my like path being like validated in a sense. Like it was like this kind of like every single client I got, every single project that I did was just like this like constant like affirmation like you're on the right track, McKenna, like keep going, like this is great. Like it felt so fulfilling and like I was like this is so cool. Like, this is just amazing. Like, everything that I've learned prior, all of these services, all of these, like, you know, when I submitted my application for university, like, all of these moments in my past life had, like, led me up to this. And now I'm just, like, feeling like, okay, what's next? Like, this is great. Like, it was like that graph that we were talking, like I talked to my coworker about, like I actually felt like I was going up and up, and I was like, this is so cool. Like I feel just a lot more fulfilled, and like I'm following things that I'm passionate about, creating goals for myself. I'm following at that time, my why was just to work remotely and make income remotely while traveling, and I was fulfilling that why, and it was just that fire inside of me just kept getting bigger and bigger.
That's so great. And at this point, are you thinking, I've got a future here? How does the future look to you at that point?
Yeah, the future, honestly, I wasn't looking like too far into the future because again, it was like at that point it was like I didn't know whether or not like what was next for me, right? Like I didn't have this big plan to take over the world at that time. It was literally just to like, okay, pay the bills, like travel, like it was very much like that kind of small, like big dreams.
So your friends and your family, are you
Mhm.
sharing these wins with them when you are in the course and you get your first client and then you get other clients and the things that you're learning? Are you telling your friends and family about this?
Yeah, yeah. I was definitely telling them, like, I remember I posted the very first post as well on like Instagram for my new business Instagram, being like, I'm starting off as a virtual assistant. Like, I'm I'm so excited, I'm doing this and this and this service and I'm supporting wine brands. And I got really good feedback from it. Like a lot of my friends and family were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, congrats, McKenna. They're really excited. And I remember those few people would just like be like, oh, how's that little thing going that you're doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, good, thanks. Like it was still very much in like it's like a smaller era, of course, but it was just like cool. Like to them, they thought it was really cool. However, like of course people were like, oh, who knows, like how long are you gonna do this for? Like, are you gonna get another job after something like, or like what's the end goal with this? Like, will you like try to work for somebody else or something like that? And I just kept being like, no, I think I'm just gonna continue one step day by day and just I love what I'm doing to be able to support these business owners and these brands. So I'm just going to continue to follow that and we'll see where that leads. But right now, this is what I'm doing. I'm committed to this and we'll see where it goes.
I hear you. I love what you do. You just brought it back to what you're actually doing because the reality is a lot of us do have people in our lives who are like, wait, you're doing what now?
Yeah.
What's that? And oh, okay, well, how long is this going to last? And it's
Yeah.
okay. That's where they
hmm
are. And you lock back into your passion and your
hmm
focus, which is a great way to get through that. So now you're in your business, you realize, like, okay, look, I'm actually fulfilling part of my dream. I wanted to be able to earn enough to travel, which is another thing. And people talk about all the time is that gratitude of saying, look, oh my gosh, look what happened. I did it. I'm in this part of my dream. So how long are you in that? Before you start expanding. Because a lot of people, maybe that would be enough. Some people would say, oh, I wanted to do this. Now I'm done. Now I can just keep
Yeah.
doing this. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. So within that first 3 months, I got booked out. And then I would say it was maybe around like a bit after Christmas time. So maybe like 5 months in, 6 months in. So I was fully booked out working with these clients, doing these tasks for them. And then I felt this like it was kind of, I don't know if it was maybe like that voice inside of me or something that was just like, okay, like what's next, McKenna? Like maybe we can scale somehow or do something more. Because also at that time, while I was loving what I was doing, I began to realize that like I could only work with so many clients because there's so many hours in a day. And I was charging like an hourly rate with them. So certain amounts of money. And I was like, okay, well, like I'm kind of maxed out. Like I can't work with anybody more. So like what? So I just like continue working with them. I mean, I could. However, I was like, maybe like I could scale somehow and gain back some of the time that I was spending working with these clients. And like I could maybe free up some of that time, but scale somehow. And I remember seeing this woman that had built an agency on Instagram. And I was like, oh, maybe an agency could be an idea. What's the next way to scale? Like, I could obviously charge more, of course, or I could maybe begin to outsource some of the tasks that I was doing onto somebody else to free up my time and try to scale that way. So that's kind of like around that point is when that initially started, that I was like, I brought on my first subcontractor and I started sharing with her the tasks. And it was very much like, hey, can you do this? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I could do that, send it back to me. And then I'd share with the client, ensuring that the work was still good. I would still quality assurance everything. And then from there, I was like, oh, maybe I can make this bigger. Maybe I can. It was just kind of like a thread being pulled into something that was just going to like from a ball of yarn or something. Like it was just going to eventually like unravel. Like it was just like picking apart these like small pieces and like just following these curiosities. And then yeah, decided that I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to grow into an agency.
So at that moment that
hmm
you decide to pick becoming an agency, you've done some research.
hmm
How deeply did you research how to do an agency? Did you just say, okay, I know enough. I'm going to go ahead and try it. I need to get a subcontractor. And were you nervous? Were you afraid? Tell me, how did that next step feel?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely felt yeah, very nerve-wracking. Because again, it was like those creeping thoughts that I've been like, what do you mean you're gonna grow an agency? Do you even understand? I remember Googling too and like being like, what is an agency? Like, what's the difference between an agency and a virtual assistant? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know the differences. Like, it just felt very much like far-fetched for me at that time as well, considering I had just started in August. So I was like, what do you mean like you're going to grow into an agency? Do you know what it was? And I remember being scared as well to think like, oh, I have to tell my clients that I'm gonna grow people, like have a team, and this team is going to take over their tasks instead of me. So it felt scary, and it felt scary too, just like I don't know, the idea of having a team. Like I was like, my team, like who am I to say I have a team behind me? Like it was just like all of these very, very much doubts. But I just knew I was feeling to the point where I was like, okay, McKenna, next step, how can we level up? Like again, kind of like I felt a little bit overworked and burnt out from just trying to work with so many clients that it was kind of just like the natural next step. But oh, so many thoughts of like, I don't know what I'm doing. But like, I also realized like, okay, that's okay. I don't have to know it all. I just, again, have to take that first step, reach out. And it's not like I'm going to have this team of 50 people in the next 6 months, like one person at a time, one task at a time. And I made a lot of mistakes, like absolutely so many mistakes in the beginning, but I was able to learn from those mistakes as well and take them as lessons and grow from that.
What was your biggest fear in that time of growing into an agency?
Yeah, I would say my biggest fear was just I think being a leader, honestly, like to like have somebody underneath me and like be in this leadership position, especially like not having really been in a leadership position before, to like learn how to become like this leader and like tell people what to do or like kind of have to have these hard conversations with people was like something I felt a fear around. Like I'm not a confrontational person, so I felt this fear. I was like, what if I have to fire somebody? Like, what if like all of these new things I never knew how to do? But it was like I had to like especially when I had to fire somebody eventually, like later down the line, obviously a couple of years after. But like it was like these things that I was like I had to overcome and I had to do. And I'm so thankful for that because it's just shaped me into who I am now. And like it's crazy like this growth that you have from like those experiences and like overcoming that fear. Like there's so much more over on the other side of that.
When you're having these fears, who am I? I'm not an agency, a team, whatever. I'm going to have to tell these people what to do. Ah, how long do you stay in that space just saying, I'm not ready yet before you actually start looking for a subcontractor and say, I'm going to go forward with this? Tell me about how you got through that fear into where you needed to go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was the fear for a while actually. Like I would say maybe like a month or so that I felt like this fear of like, okay, is it? And during that time I was trying to research a lot too. And I was just like, okay, how do I do this? Who can I reach out to? And yeah, I felt this fear for like a month and this kind of like going back and forth, like, okay, do I go back to just being a virtual assistant? Do I not grow? Do I not outsource? Like this just like very much this fear. But what I came to realize is like the fastest way to like get through that fear was just by take action, like taking action on that next thing, like moving forward. So like it was like I was scared to bring somebody on, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna research somebody anyways. Like I'm gonna talk to somebody who'd be interested into coming onto my team. And from that, the more I like moved forward in that step, the more that fear got like smaller and smaller. And just by looking at other people that did it, like I was like, well, this person did it. Who's to say I can't do it? Like, who's to say I can't build this amazing team? And just through that and like through taking these steps and I realized clients are fine with having somebody else come on as long as it's all good and the work is getting done and they're trained up and all of that. Like it was totally okay. So it's just yeah, these fears kind of diminished, but I felt that fear very strong and like it's not to say it didn't creep up again as I was continuing for my next hire. Like I'd have these thoughts and be like, what, another hire? Like, are you kidding me? But by sticking through and at that time, then I started to realize what I was building. It was more than me. And I was like, had this bigger vision at that point of like, okay, like we could become kind of like this agency that's like a one-stop shop for wine brands, having people in various roles. And I was like, I was seeing the results that we were getting for clients, and that far outweighed these fears that I had because I could see the potential of like what we could become at that point.
Tell me what your days are like and tell us where you are. Tell us about your life today with Gleam Connections.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, at the moment, Our team is definitely growing. So we have three amazing women on our team right now. And it's been such a journey, and we've been able to expand our services too. So like helping out in various areas because like I said, I'm very much what I love about growing a team is that I'm able to be that leader now that I was once scared to be like such a long time ago. But I just like feel it's like so fulfilling and like so like, yes, I want to be this leader for especially the women on my team and to be able to grow, their mindsets, their skills, their leadership skills, their services that they're offering and have them in their zone of genius. So it's like I'm very passionate about the clients we support, obviously, and the work that we're doing and the amazing results we're getting. But I'm so passionate about growing my team as well and creating like this kind of this, new reimagined like agency that is just like people are happy what they're doing for work because it was like for me that's so important is that happiness piece because when I was in university working those jobs I wasn't happy and I want these women that are working for my team to be very happy, so that's what I'm very much focusing on. But right now I'm able to also travel, and so right now I'm in Slovenia. I've been on a 4-week van trip traveling around Europe and being able to work remotely, and it's just so wonderful. Pop open my laptop and work a couple hours and go swimming after. Like I'm able to have this time freedom and my schedule on my own terms and yeah, be able to have this team, have the support, work with these amazing clients as well.
If you look back, that gal that you were, and those moments where you're crying for those 3 weeks, or when you're saying, okay, I want to apply to university again, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know what to say to my parents, what would you say to her now?
That is such a good question. I would give her a hug, first of all, to let her know she's her thoughts and her passions are valid and to continue to follow what she feels really inside of her and to follow that route. And I would just let her know, like, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take that first step towards what you want to go. And you're always going to have these fears and these moments of doubt, of course, because we're human and that's what we do. We have these moments that are not they're not what we want to feel. We have these moments. However, we need to focus on leaning into what we're passionate about, what we love, and like kind of following those curiosities because that will lead you to somewhere wonderful and you feel more fulfilled for following that.
So then imagine that you could fast forward time, or that you could meet up with yourself when you are in your 50s or 60s and you're sitting down with this older you. What would you want to say to that version of you?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I feel like I would just want to like celebrate with her. I feel like I would just want to like be like, yes, like, and ask her just do you feel excited? Do you feel like you've fulfilled all of what you wanted to fulfill? Do you feel like you've lived a life worth living? Do you feel like you're passionate? And just like, yeah, celebrate the fact that she's decided to take these risks and to overcome that fear and follow what excites her inside.
I love it because there are so many women once they get older that need to reconnect and say, my inner 20 something, what does she
Hmm.
think of my life today? Am I living
Yeah.
the life that she set me up for, that she wanted, that she was dreaming about? This was such a wonderful conversation. You're such an incredible woman and you are such an inspiration. I really hope that this reaches a lot of people who are going to be able to get inspiration and realize that being able to change and transform and reinvent themselves at any stage in their life is well within their grasp, and they don't have
Yeah.
to know how to do it. But thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on this. You had me tearing up at one point too. I just feel so passionate about this. So I'm very grateful to have been on this podcast.
Congratulations to you on your success. And I am going to keep watching you and wish you every open door that you want to find. So
Thank
thank you.
you.
Okay, McKenna. Wow. Okay, so the part where she said that she was crying and she's so frustrated and she's scared, and it's like she wants fulfillment. and there's a part of her who that's craving, that's begging for fulfillment, and she's trying to execute that for her calling, right? For what her soul or her heart or whatever you want to call it is asking of her. And she can't figure out how to do it. And she's frustrated and she's scared. And there's financial pressure of, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to run out of money. And should I just go back to university? Um, which is in her heart, she knows that that's not for her. And this is the thing. I'm 58, and I think that I know for myself for sure, I feel like we've all been there. We've all been at that place where maybe it's not as extreme as her, and maybe it has been as extreme as her, where you have a calling, a feeling that there's something that you want out of life, but maybe you've got obligations and you've got children, you've got kids to feed, you've got bills to pay, and I can take the safe road or I can keep going after my dream or fulfilling this feeling, even though I don't know how to get there. And those feelings of fear and frustration, and different people, we have different levels of tolerance for that. And some of us, myself included, took that safe path. Okay, I'm just going to do this thing and I'm going to find my joy within that area. And, maybe it works and maybe it works for a while. But what I feel like is, if you've ever done that, and I know what this feels like, is that one day you wake up and you have that inner feeling, that little inner McKenna saying, this isn't the path that I wanted to be on. And I know it was safe. And I know that maybe you got a lot of financial security. Maybe you rose the ranks in corporate and you got the title and the financial security, and nobody's knocking that. Geez, for Pete's sake, respect and financial security, those are really good things. But do you still have that 23-year-old inside of you saying, this is what I want to do. This is what will make me feel good. This is what's going to give my life fulfillment. And then to think that it doesn't have to stop because you jumped on that safe path, that there is still a way to change, transform, reinvent your life, your career, so that you can start getting that fulfillment. And maybe it's not in career, maybe it's something else, but there is a way to do it. And then when she talks about, what would she say to that girl who was struggling, that young woman who was struggling and so upset and doubting herself and saying, I can't, I don't know how to do this. And what she says first is that first I would give her a hug, which I just love. I mean, to comfort yourself and say, hey, it's okay that you're scared. It's okay. I mean, nobody's asking you to not be scared. Nobody's asking it's not what you have to do. I'm not asking you to not be scared. To give her a hug and then to just say that you don't have to know where that staircase is going to lead. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. Just keep going, essentially, is what she's saying. And then what would she say to herself at 50 or 60? And when she said, I would just want to celebrate with her, this is what I love. Okay, am I getting in touch with that? Well, I am. With that 23-year-old, 25-year-old inside of me saying, okay, what were the things that she wants? What are the things that she wanted from me? And am I able to sit down and celebrate that I am on that path and it is happening and I'm making that happen. I'm going toward it and I'm letting the doors open in front of me by staying in motion toward that thing that I want. The reason I thought it would be so great for everybody who's in my age bracket, women like me who are in their 50s, or maybe if you're in your 60s or older, to hear from somebody like McKenna and to hear her story is because we still have that person inside of us. We still have those, we still were the person who had that dream. She would still be, if she was 60 years old, she's in her late 20s now, she would probably still be that person who loves travel or, would want to have explored that. And so I, the reason I thought it would be so good for people who are like me, people my age, women who are in their 50s or older, to hear her is because I think it's a good idea for us to reconnect with the person that we were, the person that we were, who had those dreams and desires and ambitions. Maybe getting on a corporate path or whatever the safe path was, maybe it just was easier for us to say, not think about those things that we wanted and not think about what we dreamed of and um what lit us up and our ambitions and what we dreamt for ourselves and what we planned and hoped would become of our lives. Maybe it's easier to just silence that. But is it still there? And if it is, how can we start moving in that direction? And, in my case, don't we deserve to at least give ourselves the chance to have that thing that's inside of us that we've always wanted? So, wow. Okay. So, thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching or listening to Sequel Opportunities, where we help you create the director's cut of your life. If you know somebody who you think this might help, I hope that you forward this episode to them. Okay, that's enough from me. I'm Jerry, and I will see you next time. And cut. It's a wrap.